Hey everybody, and welcome to our review for Sonic the Hedgehog. Stephen, of course, a much maligned movie in terms of its promotion. It was originally a horrendous looking little creature with human teeth, strangely coloured eyes. Everything that could remotely be wrong with the character was wrong. But good old Jeff Fowler, who directed this movie, went away and redesigned it. We'll get into that later on though. Yeah. Really wasn't expecting much of this movie, but as we'll probably find out as we go through this review, it surprised me quite pleasantly. I thought it was actually not that bad.
Nope.
But general pish talking out the way early on, what was your thoughts on the introduction to this movie, Stephen? I've says here, Back to the Future, because of course this movie starts off with a shot from the end of the movie, and then we are introduced via a slow motion sort of still image of Sonic with narration to this little guy that we all love and have loved for many, many years, 20, 30 years, whatever. And then it goes through a lovely little short origins sequence, and I just thought the way that Jeff handled that origins sequence was really, really cool. It was much like what we got maybe on steroids with Wonder Woman, where it got that out of the way very quickly and thrust us into a very quickly paced movie. What did you make of the introduction, and what did you make of that origins story?
I can understand the reason why they did it, John. You know, everyone relates speed with Sonic, and you can't have a slow build up to this kind of character's story. So I thought it was the right decision to, throw us into the mix right from the kickoff. And it's not confusing or anything like that. I think the narration from Sonic, Ben Schwartz, I should say, explains that this is, later on in the show. And then we do go back, obviously, to the beginning. But you're right, John. It was very quick paced. I liked the way it started. It also showed us the improvements, like you said, from what we got in those initial trailers. How much the look of the character had evolved back into what we know and love.
Yeah, Stephen, look, I really was blown away by the actual redesign. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
And indeed the CGI, which we'll get into, I'm sure, at some point.
Yeah.
The opening, I did say, it reminded me quite a bit of what they did in the likes of Detective Pikachu and whatnot, and Peter Rabbit and Paddington. Seems to be a recurring theme in these live-action, animated, hybrid movies where we get a sort of stop frame and then it introduces the character. Yeah. And the origin story seems to be very short and the main in these stories, or in these movies. And I think that's very deliberate because they obviously know that the demographic is primarily young people. Yeah. And they've not got the attention span to sit and consume a 15-20 minute origin story, and there's no need for that anyway. It bogs the story down. You're much better just getting out of the way. I thought it was short and sweet. The little, I think it was a bird, it was a great line, I try to remember it, basically Obi-Wan or something. If Obi-Wan had claws and a beak, she gets killed very quickly, sacrifices herself to allow him out, and then it takes you right into this town. I can't recall the town's name, something Fields or something Green Fields.
I can't remember, John. It's the beauty of being in a theatre. You can't take it on. But listen, I think you're right, John. I think the handling of the characters' origins or lack of origins was the correct decision, because this film is aimed at families and young children as well, and they just want to see the action. They want to see the comedy, the slapstick. Jim Carrey's in there. You're going to get that. But you're right. I played Sonic games since 1992. I think it was, whenever it came out on the Mega Drive, and I know it came out in the Master System too as well. I didn't care about the origins and the backstory. All I knew was that Sonic was the good guy and Robotnik was the mad sort of villain, of the storyline, and that's all you needed for the video games. Same in this, you don't really need that backstory other than, that it's going to be a cat and mouse game. And that's what this film is primarily. It's a cat and mouse, and there's a bit of a buddy sort of, feel to it as well with the James Marsden character, which we'll get into, John. But you're right, I don't think you needed that backstory for this or anything like that. No. And the way they handled Sonic's sort of situation, at the beginning was well explained. We didn't really have to get into the ins and outs of his situation or anything like that. And you're right, the loneliness of the character as well was very important throughout the film, not just obviously at the beginning.
Absolutely, Steve. That was what I was going to get into next. But I thought that intro was really well handled in the way that it did establish his loneliness, this fear of being on his own, not having any friends, and just the concept of him learning to be this sort of speed freak and harness his power. That's something that he battles throughout the entire movie. And really not until the penultimate scene, really, that he starts to harness his power fully. But loneliness is a core theme in this story for Sonic. I says that my second point. His early life in Green Hills, incidentally, Montana was the name of the town. He's living on the periphery of this town. He's living vicariously through windows and whatnot, trying to be a part of these people's lives. I think the Donut King he calls. Wachowski,
Tom Wachowski,
Yeah, and also that's James Marsden's character, if I can say his name right. And he's living through various different things. I think it's Crazy something as well, the old guy. I can't recall his name either. I'm having a mare here, clearly. But he just lives vicariously, and I thought that just bonded the viewers to this character immediately in the first 5 to 10 minutes. You see the fact that he has no one, he's going back to his cave, he's playing with himself, playing ping pong and whatnot, using his super speed. Just introduces the characters around about, side players, also Wachowski, Sonic, in a really nice, organic manner, and it sets up the story moving forward. And obviously, that then leads into the next sequence. But what was your thoughts on the loneliness of this character? Did you agree with me that this did endear Sonic to the perhaps audience members who haven't played the games over the years, and that he's a lonely figure, he's cutting this isolated, reclusive little guy, and then that, did you agree with me that was quite important in terms of establishing that bond that was going to be required going forward in this movie?
I think so. It's interesting, that you mentioned other films like Peter Rabbit, etc. John. Sonic the Hedgehog is very unique in the sense like Pikachu, whereas it's got such a unique look about him that it was going to be interesting in how real people were going to interact and accept him. Tom obviously thought he was some kind of alien, I've never thought that Sonic resembled a hedgehog, apart from the spikes on the back. But he's such an iconic figure, and it was going to be interesting to see how they were going to blend his sort of world in with real world. I thought they handled it very well. That introduction, you're right. I think taking it from that angle that he was a lonely character, I didn't expect that, so that was quite a surprise, and it was quite an interesting way to take the film forward and the story forward as well. And the building up of the relationship between Sonic and Tom as well was very important. I know we're going to get into it. James Marsden was very good in this film. I'll just touch on that just now, but we'll go into it in more depth because I'm looking at you here and we are going to be talking about it.
There's no strict regime here, we can speak about any of these points at any time. You want to speak about James Marsden, get right in there, man, because I agree with you. I thought he was stupendous. He's not a guy I'm a massive fan of, but I thought his interactions with Robotnik in this movie in particular were the real standout highlight moments in the movie. Just the back and forth chit chat part, or whatever you want to call it. You're right, the interactions between him, Sonic, and also Robotnik were a big part of this movie. But look, I never really looked at him as being an alien either, but they seem to go down that route. And I suppose there is a degree of adaptation required, some creative license, because you are taking it from a game which is very linear, just collecting rings and fighting off this evil guy. I think that was the problem, John, they had with the initial look. I think they were trying their best to make him look more, I don't want to say human because it's supposed to be a hedgehog, but it didn't look like a hedgehog either. But I think they were trying to humanise him a little bit more to sort of being more acceptable into the real world, and I think that was the mistake they made. They only have to look at the Super Mario Brothers film from 1993 that doesn't work. They made the villain, I think his name was Koopa, it was Dennis Hopper that played him, a human, and he's not human in the video games, so it doesn't make any sense, so I think that was probably the biggest sort of decision on the original look for this film, and they obviously had to revisit that and change it, and I'm glad they did because it looked absolutely amazing in this film. Right, Stephen, it's a difficulty we have when you're balancing adapting a game of this nature. It must be really hard. Some people criticise the adaptations we've seen of video games over the years, but it must be very, very difficult. It's not like taking it from a novel where you have established backgrounds and probably a better story to work from. Video games don't usually have an amazing story unless it's like a Last of Us type game or something like that, or that one that Tom Holland's doing, the Drake character. I never remember that. Departed, I think, or something like that. Doesn't even matter. But they usually don't have a great story, so it's usually quite difficult to adapt. And I think they did quite a decent job of expanding out this character. He is on his own. He has no one else like him.
Yeah.
His mentor figure died, saving him from the clutches of these little things that were coming after him. And that leaves him on his lonesome. So they established out a nice little backstory for this character. And then the way they introduced Robotnik and whatnot as the sort of antagonistic figure, I thought that was really cool. Again, playing into the loneliness of this character. He watches this little guy. He's probably been playing baseball from under the stands for a good solid year. Hit a home run. They go off, they win. The place clears, and then he goes out and plays the game himself.
Yeah.
Taking up different positions. Then he realises, look, there's no one here. I'm on my lonesome. I'm deeply unhappy. And then he utilises his power, almost accidentally. Causes a big surge and a blackout. And then there's immense fallout. He's hoping that no one will notice. It's just that the lights have popped and whatnot. But it's so enormous, this blackout. It's also registered with the FBI and whatnot.
Yeah.
And that then brings Eggman, Robotnik, whatever you want to call him, onto the scene. What did you make of that energy surge sequence? Because I thought visually that was very, very cool. And just this concept of him doing a sort of Eddie Murphy style, playing 40 different roles himself, because he can move so quickly. It was
actually quite sad, John, you know, the sort of situation Sonic was in at this point, you know. We go back to loneliness and this. But I thought it was handled well, as best it could be, without depressing us. You know, there was some humour in there as well. And the energy from him as well, you know, we can't ignore. You know, I think Ben Schwartz has got to take a lot of credit for this as well. You know, the sheer energy coming through his voice to obviously bring this character to life. But you're right, the blackout sequence for me was just a sort of catalyst to bring in the authorities. Yeah. It drew attention, and then the chase can begin. But I liked it. You know, it was a good way of doing it. It wasn't shoehorned in or anything like that, and it was a good way of, you know, introducing Jim Carrey into the story at this point as well.
Of course, this is a town where little animals walking along a road are a big sort of incident for the police and whatnot.
Yeah.
We established that the Wachowski, what was his first name again?
Tom, yeah.
Tom Wachowski is this sort of bored figure. He's sick of life in small town. He wants to go off to San Francisco. But Stephen, Robotnik's introduction, I've said, eventful introduction.
Yeah.
I've said the Wachowski house scene as well, when he obviously visits Tom.
Yeah.
And then that whole interaction between him, the robots or the machines come in. We hear him scream at one point. He's trying to play this bravado figure. He screams when he sees Sonic for the first time. And then I've just went on to say Jim Carrey's performance as a whole in this movie. What was your thoughts on the introduction? I thought it was hilarious. Well, I don't think the trailer did justice to the performance. I was going to say, John,
the trailer did parts of it. You know, the what's your name? And he's about to say, no one cares, that thing. I thought it was classic Jim Carrey. You know, and I think you mentioned this before as well, John. I think it was maybe when we saw the trailer, it was like watching Jim Carrey from the 1990s once again. He's got his form back, he's got his energy back, because for too long he's been a very subdued man, for personal reasons, you know, which we'll not get into, but I just think that he seems to have that spark back about him, you know, and this character was made for the likes of Jim Carrey. I think his performance in this is one of the best performances he's done in a long time, and I don't say that lightly. It was a combination between Ace Ventura and the Riddler for me. Just his physical performance as well. This is a man that's, I think he's now...
He's in his 50s.
Yeah, he's in his late 50s. I think he's 62, I think he was born, so he's 58. Yeah. My maths are right, I'm not sure. Yeah. So he's nearly 60 years old, and he still has that energy and childlike nature that he had 30 years ago. So that says a lot about him. His interactions with James Marsden as well were brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But then again, you know, James Marsden... I've always felt he had that kind of there was a sort of dark humour in him in the X-Men films with when he was playing off Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. There was always a bit of humour in those 10 scenes between them. They hated each other's guts clearly, but there was also that kind of dark humour in there. I get senses of that, the confrontation, like you said, with Robotnik and Tom Wachowski at the door. When he wouldn't let him in, they were just bouncing off each other. You know, the chemistry was there, and it was just fantastic. And I actually forgot about the scream from Robotnik when he saw Sonic for the first time. It was so funny
because he's establishing himself as this super intelligent, sort of all-seeing, all-hearing, omnipotent
super confident
antagonist. Yeah, super confident. Then he screams like a little bitch when he sees Sonic. He tries to play it off by slapping down his faithful goon that follows him around the place. But Stephen, I've tried to write down quotes from this because there was some standout ones. I was spitting up formula as well as you were spitting up formula. James Marsden's character also replies with, I was breastfed actually. Nice, why don't you rub that into my often face? Something along those lines anyway.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really cool interaction. There's so many moments like that in this movie between these two guys.
Yeah.
Real, as I did say, standout moments in this movie involved James Marsden and Jim Carrey. There was another one as well, I think One Small Step for Mankind, One Giant Step for Me or something like that. That's no baby Bigfoot or something along those lines. So many great moments of dialogue for Jim Carrey in this movie. The one at the end as well, it's a flight suit designed to modulate my temperature and reduce drag, and I think he replies with, yeah, you still look like a drag or something like that. Something along those lines. There was so many punchy bits of dialogue in this movie, primarily around those two guys. You're right, in terms of aesthetics as well for Robotnik, obviously the very end sequence, which we'll get into, is classic Robotnik, but the slick back hair, the meticulously manicured moustache, the way he was wearing the blacks and whatnot, he just looked incredible, Jim Carrey, in this movie. He was a real fitting antagonist, really hamming it up. I don't like to say that, hamming it up, but slapstick sort of, his distinctive style. I don't know what you'd call his comedic style, but it was like going back to Ace Ventura and whatnot, as you did say.
Yeah.
Just classic Jim Carrey. I love the guy. We've done a profile on him when we first started. You don't want to hear that now.
I don't want to get into that.
No. But we both love the guy. I genuinely love all of these movies, drama and comedy. And I'm so happy to see he's back confirmed, because could have been an absolute flop, this movie, if he didn't nail it. And I think he is one of the big reasons why this movie surprised me in terms of being semi-decent.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't hit on Margot Robbie.
Yeah. What is wrong with that, man? She is good looking. There's nothing wrong with saying it.
You can't say that, John.
Yeah, you can't say that.
You're a creep.
You can't say that an A-list celebrity actress who's incredibly good looking is good looking. Wow.
I said they would have said exactly the same thing. Chris Hemsworth was sitting on that sofa in the Graham Norton show. So.
Absolutely. You're right, Stephen.
We're off on a tangent.
Yeah, but look, Stephen, moving on swiftly, I think we can both agree Jim Carrey was a fantastic performance in this movie. The CGI, another fantastic element in this movie. I've said CGI, sense of speed, and Sonic's redesigned look. We both spoke about the redesigned look, but I mean, I went on to ponder a question. Was the delay in the appearance change necessary? The delay and the appearance change, if I can speak correctly, necessary? And just cinematography in general, did you think that this appearance change was necessary? Do you think that the final results have necessitated this delay in the movie? I certainly think they do. I don't think this movie would have been as enjoyable for me. It would have been so jarring watching it. It would have took me out of the movie, seeing those human teeth and just the ridiculously oversaturated green eyes.
I think I've seen most of Jim Carrey's films. I'm not going to say this is an out-and-out Jim Carrey film, but I knew he was going to be in this. I was looking forward to the trailer. We did the reaction for it, and the first thing that put me off it was the look of Sonic. And I did think, in my heart of hearts, I'm not going to bother going and seeing this film. And it's a shame, because I want to see how Jim Carrey performs in this, but just because of the look of it. And I think a lot of people felt the same way. It just wasn't the Sonic they recognised. There was no attachment to this character, certainly from my age anyway. I grew up with this character, in my early teens, so I know that there has been variations of him since the 1990s, John, but this look just didn't seem to gel with people. So I think it was necessary to change him. I wasn't bothered about the delay. There was plenty of good films coming out anyway, between that trailer dropping and now. So it didn't bother me about the delay. I think the director's got to take a lot of credit here, and the studio, because it's not often that you get studios that will listen to the people that matter the most, the people that want to part with the cash. Absolutely,
Stephen. Look, a lot of criticism went this movie's way, and I did highlight the balls from Jeff Fowler going out and delaying the movie, going back and reworking it, admitting that they got it wrong. And then there was criticism of the movie being released in this release slot, that it could be a graveyard. February isn't usually a good time for movies being released, but I think they've been vindicated here, because the movie seems to be doing well at the box office. Biggest ever video game adapted movie to release in the States anyway, $57 million I think. and it's continuing from strength to strength.
I think this he's rattled a few cages, John, because of the Birds of Prey thing, or Harley Quinn as they're calling it now. They'll certainly not have to rename this film.
No, they certainly not.
And the sort of internal promotion as well of that film seems to be, gathering a pace now. But this film has done the opposite of what I expected. I didn't think, when I knew that Birds of Prey was being released roughly around about the same time as this film, I thought this was going to affect this film badly.
It turns out it's the complete opposite.
Exactly.
Who would have funked it, Stephen? But look, I think that the redesign has probably played a huge part in people getting out and watching it. Just respect for Jeff Fowler having the balls to do it and getting out to reward the guy for having that braveness. I was about to say brevity, I don't know why. But then, obviously, just the curiosity factor as well, getting out to see what it looked like. And I think people have been pretty pleasantly surprised like me. Surprise! Don't know what that was.
Unexpected.
But yes, between the eyes, yes. But look, Stephen, I said cinematography in general. I think that'll take us on to the next scene. That slow motion bar sequence. I've says a homage to that Quicksilver scene from, what was it?
Days of Future Past.
Days of Future Past.
I think they did that again in a couple of other X-Men films, which I hate when they do that. That moment should stay within that film. It was a classic iconic moment. Yeah. We were in tears when we went to see it in the cinema. It was so funny. And it was, I think it was homage to that as well, John. I think there was a couple of scenes in this film that they did it in. And it makes sense. It makes sense for a character that's got the the gift of speed, to be shot in that way. It's very easy for us to see him move about, dart about, the way he does, which was also done well. I like the way they did the spinning effect as well. But when you see it from his perspective, that's when it, kind of takes on a new sort of, direction, cinematically as well. And it was easy for us to say, they're ripping off the X-Men here, but I felt it was needed at this point in the film as well, and it did look good as well.
I think it's just the actual contents of the scene as well, though, Stephen. He's getting off and doing little stupid things.
Yeah. Just like Quicksilver did,
little menial things that are not important to what's happening, like saving his friend, supposed best friend, Tom, from getting punched in the face from this big hillbilly baldy guy. And he's getting around and doing stupid things. So that was almost, as you did say, like Quicksilver going about and screwing around and not obviously changing the direction of the bullets. I really enjoyed the scene. I thought it was a change of pace because it was kind of, I don't know, introduced this lonely figure. They go off on this road trip. It's kind of a down. He's telling them to get out and whatnot. He guilt trips him into allowing him to come and take him to San Francisco. Then this is really the development of this bromance. And I do say that as well. The whole middle act of this movie, if there even is a middle act, it seems like one whole act, really. It's frenetic from beginning to end, but it turns into a mismatched buddy movie, I've says. And I've says thoughts on the story as a whole. I didn't feel the story was anything momentous. It didn't do anything unique. It was just a simple little story about a lonely figure finding his place in society, being welcomed, and then obviously just the mismatched buddy thing and whatnot, and generalised video game antagonist.
We've seen this story before. Short Circuit was another classic example of this misfit trying to fit in and being chased by the government. It's exactly the same story, but that doesn't bother me. I think the characters carried the film, to entertain me. James Marsden, Jim Carrey, and the voice of obviously Ben Schwartz was the key to this, and the cinematography. The plot was very.
You don't need
A to Z. Yeah. It was just played out the way you thought it was going to play out. It was, I don't want to say predictable. I think that's maybe doing it a disservice, but you knew how it was going to play out. But this film wasn't concentrating on any complex twists or anything like that. It was an action film to a degree with comedy, and obviously, as I said before, it was a cat and mouse sort of. Interactions between Robotnik and Sonic, and obviously the buddy sort of element as well between Sonic and Tom Wachowski.
Absolutely, Stephen. And look, I think it's as we did say, it's really important that they got those performances right, or this would have fell flat in its face. It seems like such a generalised thing to say, but it must be incredibly difficult unless Ben Schwartz is sitting with one of those little dotted suits on to work around this sort of animated style.
Yeah.
I don't know how the likes of Domhnall Gleeson do it and Peter Rabbit, with obviously James Corden.
Well, Ben Schwartz he's got probably about 15 years.
Yeah, you say that. Yeah,
animated voice experience. He's featured in the likes of The Simpsons and stuff like that. So he's a well-rounded, and he's craft. He's well. Rounded craft as well in voice acting. So I think he's just one of these guys. I don't know, obviously, much about him other than what he's done before, but he seems to be one of these guys that just knows the right level of energy to put his performances in. And
it's a very hard thing to do, Stephen. I've seen the likes of Tom Hanks speak about how they push for different ways of intonating words and whatnot. So it's almost a gift in itself. We've seen like some Mark Hamill speak about it. Some people deride voice acting, but it really is an art in itself. And look, he was easily on a par with what Ryan Reynolds did in Pokemon Detective Pikachu. I always want to gabble that up. I thought it was a fantastic performance from Ben Schwartz. That was another thing I was going to speak about. Voice acting performance. I think we've done it to the death though, and I'm on that strong way. Yeah. I've not had it beat by beat. I thought it was a fantastic performance from the man. He really imbued the Sonic character with real personality, as you did say. He added to a lot of the scenes, little dabbings of humour and whatnot in there, and some sombre and poignant moments too later on in the movie. But Stephen, moving on swiftly to the next point, we have to speak about that evil lab scene. Really just classic Jim Carrey, Stephen. Real physical performance, as you did allude to earlier on. I think this sequence just about sums the man up. There's so many moments in this movie with him, but it felt like such a, how shall I put it, tacked on superfluous scene. It was not necessary at all. He's been chased with dinosaurs, he's doing all sorts of wacky things. He even clicks a sign poster, a little switch saying evil lab, power to evil lab, and then he's screwing around with also one of Sonic's spines or whatever you'd call it. What did you make of that sequence?
It was the Riddler in Batman Forever.
What's the Riddler?
He's got such a unique dance, and his body language. You just know it's Jim Carrey. Even if it was a silhouette, you go, that's Jim Carrey. I know it's Jim Carrey just the way he moves. I don't know if this is in his contracts for every film he does, but yeah, I think it was just a little nice break, and it was a chance for us just to see this character. I think this was possibly the first time we saw the character alone. He was always interacting with, that general at the start. That he didn't care for his name, the James Marsden character in Sonic. So at this point, this was just a sort of little moment to himself, and why not? You've got Jim Carrey in there, he can dance, he's got rhythm, and it was just that. It was also, I think it was important to see the sort of mindset of Robotnik as well, that he was a bit of a lunatic, wasn't he?
Yeah, he certainly was. He was a crazed genius. I says that there, the eccentricity of the man. But again, you see the brilliance of him as well. There's moments where he's tapping on these little gadgets and he can harness the exact location of obviously Tom Wachowski and Sonic at any given moment. And that leads us on to the next sequence, in actual fact. That moment where they are being chased and there's like machines flying after them. A little bit ridiculous. It's like, instead of it being a bigger thing that's coming after them, and then an even bigger
smaller,
thing, it was getting...
It's like Russian dolls,
But the smaller it was, the more potent the attack was. Until they're treating this little fly thing like it's a joke helicopter thing, and it cuts the...
This is the one that's stuck, they couldn't get rid of, or that stuck to their hand, wasn't it?
Yeah, with it being stuck, so I thought that was a cool little sequence. But
I think it was a moment as well just to take a breath, because this is the moment, the whole sequence was fantastic, John. It was a good action sequence, when the roof of the car comes off, that sort of robot cuts the roof off, and and then we get the explosion, and we think, Sonic's being killed here, because he was very close to the explosion, and
there's a couple of fake deaths in this movie.
They sort of try to, I think they're trying to play that into sort of the kids sort of perspective of things, a bit of sadness and caring for the character. But I liked the whole sequence, John. I liked the chase, and obviously Tom's got to take Sonic in to get medical help, and that whole sort of scene was quite funny as well with I think it was I can't remember the character's name, but her was it her sister? Yeah, she was just you're all over the news, you're wanted by the government, blah blah blah, and they end up tying her up and they forget about her, which I thought was really funny.
Which that whole sequence takes place, I think, over the course of a few hours anyway, so I'm sure she would have been okay, but it was a nice little sequence, just highlighting again, the CGI in this movie, which I thought was pretty damn good. I'm sure that visual effects guy or the cinematographer from Detective Pikachu, who was gloating openly over this movie being delayed and being reworked, I'm sure he'd have been sick lying in his
there was no need for that,
if he's over. What was that classic line from So I Married an Axe-Murderer? If he's big enormous head lying in his enormous pillow or something like that, that's what he'd have been like with that big head of his. But yeah, I mean, there's another slow motion sequence later on which I think we can speak about in a midst of the general finale. And then we never did speak about the rings as well, sort of portals taking us to different, that classic
was good.
thing.
I liked that.
I liked that utilisation in terms of visuals as well with that. But that's also the primary reason of this whole story. He has to go to San Francisco, go into that pyramid building, and then retrieve his rings, and then go off to this mushroom world to live out a lonely, isolated life. But yeah, what did you make of the whole finale as a whole? The rings, retrieving it, the whole sequence.
This is tying into the video game again, isn't it? With the rings, this is what
the slow motion sequence was amazing. The music and everything.
Yeah.
And Robotnik laughing his maniacal head off.
In this sense, the slow motion scene, the second one, as you name it, John, is more of a necessity for the action taking place because it's very busy. Especially. The music, but Sonic throwing his two friends off the building as well. You're like, what's he doing? I liked the whole sequence. I thought him gathering the pace going down the side of that building as well. Time wasn't on his side, and I just thought the whole action sequence and the CG in this part was phenomenal. And again, it takes me back to when this trailer dropped, and I don't want to keep harking back to that, John, but it's sequences like this that show you how far the quality of the production of the film came on from what we saw initially, because certainly in this sequence I thought having a second slow motion scene, why are we doing this again? But it fit, it did fit, and it was just a great sequence as well. You're right, I think Robotnik at this point was just off his head, and it was just great, and the rings did play a part of it as well. I thought the whole portal thing was well shot, it was well done, and it played into, it wasn't just there for, look good or anything like that. There was obviously a point to it as well, but I thought it was really good visually. Yeah,
because obviously previously in the film, or earlier on in the film, Robotnik harnessed the power of Sonic into his ship so he could keep up with him. He couldn't kind of get out of his way, and he utilised the rings to hop around various different locations. I think they ended up in Paris, the Great Wall of China. Then it was Giza, the Great Pyramids of Giza. So that was really nice, the way that they jumped locations and whatnot. And as you did say, visually, really well worked. It shows you how much it's improved over the years. This movie wouldn't have been possible. The likes of Pokemon, Detective Pikachu and Paddington and whatnot, they would not have been possible 20 years ago. And I really like this rise of live-action hybrid animated movies. I thought the finale was great. The battle sequences were cool. The way it played into the opening shot shows you the development of this character, the journey he's went on. Now he's fighting this arch villain, if you like. Then the final scene as well, where obviously he's facing up against Robotnik. You think he's dead again. He's out, and again, I think it's just the whole theme of this story. I'm getting Siri coming up here. Screw you, Siri. Just the whole theme of loneliness. He has no friends. And then Tom Wachowski says, that's my friend, that's my best friend, or something like that. And that empowers him, brings him back to life. Really enjoyed that sequence at the end where he's using his speed to bounce off walls and beat the living shit out of Robotnik's ship. And then just the way he punches him through the ring, I thought that was really cool. They worked in tandem.
Punches him through the ring.
Punches him through the ring. But I bet he wished he did that instead of throwing him into that isolated mushroom location, because he'll come back at some point. I'm sure we'll get a sequel to this, but we'll speak about that in a moment, I'm sure. Stephen, what did you make of that
John,
sequence? Did you like the visual elements? Did you like the way he disposed of Robotnik?
Visually I knew it was going to be good anyway, but storytelling at this point, Sonic in the video games was never a wimp, He never ran away from Robotnik, he always faced up to him. So it was always going to be interesting to see how this was handled at the end, because throughout the film he was running away from him, for various reasons. But this was the sort of moment I much enjoyed and got a lot of satisfaction out. Just the effects as well were really good at this point. It did remind me of the Sega game, the lightning, going through them, and empowering. I just felt the whole sequence was justified as well, and I think it was a nice touch. Obviously, the Tom character finally saying, that that's my friend, because it just took that to trigger, the emotions in him, and I think that's what it's down to. Obviously his powers are, part of his emotions, and at that point, that's when I saw the Sonic that I knew.
Stephen, it's like the classic Beatles song, we get by with a little help from our friends, and that's certainly what Sonic needed to finally dispose of Robotnik. I say dispose of, we do get one final sequence, and I think, Stephen, this plays into what I'm speaking about. We get a very short origin story for Sonic. This entire movie felt like an elongated origin story for Robotnik, though, because he's not the Ivan Eggman Robotnik, look at that name, right, that we became accustomed to seeing in the games.
Yeah.
Certainly that final sequence, I think that just typifies, as I've said, Jim Carrey's performance. Really, the icing on the cake. He says something along the lines of, "My grasp on sanity remains absolute." Doesn't it, Agent Stone? Rock connaissance. He keeps repeating rock connaissance. What do you make of that final sequence? Also, he shaved his hair off. He's got the big bristled moustache, much like the iconic Robotnik. And again, it's fitting that this guy, it kind of ends with him. I mean, it had to. John, and I think he'll be back. I think we'll get a sequel.
This is exactly what happened to the Riddler in Batman Forever, where he's just a madman at this point, and it was the same as the Riddler in Arkham, just totally lost the plot, but seems to be self-assured in his own mind that he's okay, he's sane, and he's at the top of his game. But I thought the actual visuals at this point, were stunning. Yeah. And you're right, the sheer look of Robotnik as well was the one that we remember. The shaved head, sort of pointy moustache, because his moustache was quite thick throughout the film. Yeah. This was more like the video game, from what I remember. So I mean, I think it's just to signify that this character is going to be back. If this film succeeds, which it looks like it is doing okay, I think we're going to get a sequel if everyone's on board. And it's just to show you this character's not going away. He will be back. Absolutely,
Stephen. Look, I see no reason why this movie will not develop into a nice little franchise.
Yeah.
Like we've got with Paddington, like we've got with obviously Peter Rabbit.
Yeah.
I see no reason, and Detective Pikachu will definitely be blossoming into a franchise. They're doing a great job of expanding out these little live-action hybrid movies. I've said that as the final point, rounding up the review. Overall thoughts on the film. How does it stack with other video game adaptations? And I don't know if you've seen Paddington, Peter Rabbit and whatnot, but how it stacks with these other movies.
It's different, John.
Yeah, it's different.
That's two questions there. First and foremost, how did it stack with other video games? This is probably the best one that there's been.
Yeah,
and it's really, I don't want to do the other ones a disservice, and I did hark on about Super Mario Brothers. It was 1993, for God's sake, Stephen. It didn't have the visual, technical equipment at this point, so you can forgive them for that. We had Street Fighter, which was an absolute mess as well. I think there was a Doom one as well. Maybe, I don't know if Dwayne Johnson was in that. I can't remember if it was him.
Don't think so.
There was a Doom film out anyway. It wasn't that great. It could have been Quake. I can't remember, but it was poor anyway. My point is, it was poor.
Yeah.
Tomb Raider games like that have transitioned well enough into video gaming into film, because there's not much to it. You've got the heroic figure in Lara Croft, very Indiana Jones sort of mummy sort of vibe to it. It's easy to do that transition to that kind of character, but when you're taking a larger than life character like Sonic, this could have really have been the beginning of the end for the franchise. Sonic as a game hasn't been really at the forefront for a long time. Sega, where are they? So it was a big, I don't want to say a big gamble, they cut their losses, but for the sort of legacy of this character, this film had to succeed, and I think they made the right decisions in recalling the sheer look of that original look, because it wouldn't have worked. And I think, just going on to the second point of live action, John, it's different. You know, I highlighted this earlier. The likes of Paddington, such an iconic figure, probably is as close as you're going to get to a comparison with Sonic's look as well. Peter Rabbit, on the other hand, I can understand that being more acceptable because it was more rabbit looking, if that makes any sense. Detective Pikachu, such a unique look. That's the one that sort of opened up the doors for me anyway, and accepting that you can do the crossover from video game world to real world.
Yeah, Stephen, you're right. Look, that was a movie. If this didn't come out, if Detective Pikachu didn't come out first, certainly Sonic would have opened up the doors for people accepting this sort of crossover. You're right, Paddington and obviously Peter Rabbit, more realistic animals in this world, and obviously they're talking and whatnot, not everyone can understand them. That's a different thing. This is like a more colourful, bombastic version of that, and I thought these two movies really stack up well against each other. I think we will see a franchise moving forward for the two of them. They've got established actors that seem to understand the world, the characters. Robotnik is just tailor-made for Jim Carrey. James Marsden was fantastic. I fully expect him to come back. And then in terms of what he says, stacking up against video game adaptations, I would say it's right up there as one of the best I've seen ever. And I think this maybe bodes well for a future Mario adaptation, because we spoke about it recently, that the maker of Mario is indeed looking to send it out. I think it's Illumination Studios, and doing either a fully animated or an animated live action crossover. And I think this is a real pioneering game for a better Mario movie being tackled at some point in the next 3, 4, 5 years. It can be done, and I think it will be done. Hopefully better than that 93 movie. But look, I ain't get much more to add. I really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the performances, I enjoyed the neat little story. It was better than what I was expecting. A real surprise to me. I thought it had the potential to be a complete car crash, but somehow Jeff Fowler managed to pull it out of the bag, and I'm glad, because the man showed great balls by getting away and redoing the whole look. So well done to Jeff, well done to everyone else involved. Don't know if you've got much more to add, Stephen.
No.
Well, that is going to round up our review of Sonic the Hedgehog. Have you been to see it? Do you agree with us? Is it a nice little surprise for you, or did you think it was an unrepentant pile of shit, if that even makes sense? If you have anything to say at all about this movie, you can comment below and let us know what your thoughts are down below in the comment section. You can also like the video if you've enjoyed it, and you can subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content. And if you do, then you'll see us again on Monday for MBE Movie News.